Okay, throughout this experience, I've had multiple people say multiple different things that happened, like the person with the news. By this time I knew that they were schemes. But I had multiple parties call and pretend like they're going to help me and do things for me, and they didn't do it. I had the pastor at the church say that he was going to give me an RV. I was blacklisted from services everywhere in terror and fear. I used to get threatened all the time, so it was a really scary situation to be on the streets. So the pastor said, I begged for help at this church. He said I can stay in a tent, pitch a tent, and stay on his property in a domestic violence situation with law enforcement involved, feeling my life is in jeopardy. He eventually banned me from discussing anything about my situation on his property, told me I'd get put off, and asking for help from anyone on his property. That it was a requirement that I not try to get help or assistance living on his property. He told me that he was going to let me live in the RV, which for if you feel your life is in jeopardy, I would hear walking around. I can't say this. You have to build up because people would not believe it. I would hear walking around. And then another incident occurred where they said that it was a car on property that same night. A car on property that they did not know who the car belonged to. And I said, well, I'm telling you that I'm stopped and someone was walking around the tent. Because I'm living in a tent and all this chaos is going on. So he says that if I try to report it to the police or get evidence of it, he was going to put me off property. So you have a stalking victim trying to report the car on the property late at night and was there from the morning that no one knew whose car it was. And you're threatening to put me off for trying to report it to the police? So, of course, I couldn't report it. So another thing that happened, and, I'm not going to really go into detail because I just don't think people would believe me, but something was in my phone saying something about a live killing or something going on. Well, in the past, this was a way that my abuser communicated. He would give me, put things in my feed and have me go on chats and communicate. So I go on the chats and then we would communicate on chats. I just thought he was extremely weird. I did not know, but I'm a stay-at-home mom. I really stopped dating and being out there. So this great looking rich guy interested in me, I just really didn't have my head on straight. So this weird manner of communication, I tolerated it. So we got on the chat and was communicating on this YouTube chat. So anyway, the same manner in communication, I would have these threats in my feed. So anyway, to make a long story short, it said live killing at a certain time, and I'm in this tent. What are you going to do? But I knew moving around, I wasn't safe. So I said that I was going to stay in the tent area. So some new people came to the church that was never there. And someone watched me walking to the tent. It was weird. But I knew I got the message in the feed, live killing, stalking, live killing, something pertaining to that. So I go to the tent. There's this huge snake. So I leave the tent, and I had on my phone that something was going to happen that day. So I called animal control. They will not answer. They will not answer. The games are played because it's a snake, a water moccasin. And it was no need. It didn't make sense for this huge water moccasin to be in that area. So right in front of the tent. So since I'm calling, panicking on my phone, no one will answer because they create the problem and then prevent you from getting help to get out the problem. So then I go flag a police now. He says he's going to call animal control, but won't go check out the situation. So animal control never comes. I have this, I'm not even going to discuss the other part of the situation because I'm not sure people will believe me. So I just won't mention that. So animal control never comes. The church member that was giving me a hard time cursing, the pastor said at least, and another thing of his sermon, it was on pit vipers. That's what that snake was considered, a pit vipers. And he said in his sermon, let this be a warning. So that was pretty odd. And they knew that I saw a snake and was distraught and felt my life was in jeopardy. Then he's going to have a sermon including pit vipers in his sermon and then say, let this be a warning. This is what the pastor did. So they started putting up brush Knowing that I was terrified of this big snake, I don't know what was going on with the big snake or if anyone got it or what was going on. So they put brush all around the tent, all kinds of leaves. They were cutting things down, branches. And I said, why would you guys leave all that knowing that there's a water moccasin? I saw a water moccasin just around my tent area. The man was safe off in his RV, the one that was covering for the person that tried to hit me with a car. He was safe in his RV. They had the woman fleeing for domestic abuse in her life, living in a tent. Then they put branches and all kinds. There's a lot of other things I experienced at that church. It was torture, but I didn't have, and I know people didn't understand what I was trying to communicate. They did a lot of things that you just would not believe that you see in movies or conspiracy theory movies. Won't even discuss it. But anyway, the reason why I'm doing this video diary, that's a pattern. Multiple people do things like that. So the lady that they have never called me back with Parkland Intervention Program. They were playing games and covering for the crimes. So I got this text that I'm Monica from Parkland. Do you have some time to talk regarding your evaluation? What would be the best time to call you? I can do anything prior to 6 p.m. I'm blacklisted from all services. It's a conspiracy to violate my civil rights. I don't get services. So I said yes at 5 p.m. But I said this. She sent me the message at, let's see. At 1:55 it's showing. I said yes at 1:55. She doesn't respond. Okay, why would you send me a message at 1:55? I immediately respond back and you don't respond. Okay, here it is right here. I say it again. It was 1:22. I say it again. 5 is good at 1:24. I'm sorry. And then then I said, is that okay? She doesn't respond. And I said at 2:42. It's 5:30. But I've been going through this years. People have called, and I just won't go through. It's torture. And just imagine, this is like a horror movie. Each step you take, harassing phone calls, and it used to be worse because they would come out with the chaos. They were purposely trying to torture me and send me into a nervous breakdown. Having people threaten me multiple times a day. It was really like a horror movie, and you could not, they won't do any of the 60 reports so it would be evidence. But most of it was on camera footage. The good part about it. How do you explain someone getting attacked by 3 different people in a 24-hour period? On camera footage both times. With witnesses both times, video footage. When it happened on Dart, they lied about it. The police covered for it, and the driver lied about it. Then when I was attacked, people were looking at the officer like he was crazy, but I know they had been covering for crimes because the witnesses were saying that lady got attacked, and the officer said, no, she didn't. On camera footage at the Baylor station. So he covered for the crime, would not listen to the eyewitness testimonies or pull the camera footage, and I've never heard anything about it. But what they wanted to focus on is this criminal trespass. For nothing. If anything, if they did investigated the reports, they could see that I was violated. But some kind of way they gave me a criminal trespass from catching the bus because they got tired of scheming so I couldn't catch it. How do you be sick enough to just think of, we're going to give her a criminal trespass from using transit? From nowhere, just out the blue. This is how crazy they were when I wasn't recording. I would go into restaurants, they would intentionally burn my food, mess up my food, and I was paying them. Over and over, if they just didn't scheme to where I couldn't eat there, period. You have to work up to this because people wouldn't believe. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't experienced it. So what they're doing is using GPS, and they know when I would get dizzy if I didn't eat. So they would use the GPS on my phone and pinpoint where I was going and entice those businesses to scheme to deny me services so I can't eat and I can be dizzy. And then also in the process of me getting to those places, entice the bus drivers to not let me catch it and leave me at bus stops. Because no one would believe it. Who's going to believe that is happening? And the good thing about it, it also frames me for being mentally ill. Because no one would ever believe it. So this is the video diary for today.